Welcome back, my urban legend catalyst. Something extraordinary is rippling through your city. Right now, someone positioned at the highest levels of institutional power pulled your file, requested your complete background information, and started asking detailed questions about your capabilities and activities. This wasn't routine inquiry or casual interest. This was targeted investigation from someone whose attention means something significant is about to unfold. And because information travels through networks faster than official announcements, word has spread. People connected to various circles are whispering to each other, sharing fragments of what they've heard, speculating about what it means when someone that important suddenly focuses attention on you. The whole city is buzzing with anticipation because everyone recognizes the pattern. When powerful figures start pulling files and asking questions, major moves are coming. You've become the center of collective attention and speculation, with people wondering whether you're being recruited for something unprecedented, investigated for something they haven't discovered yet, or positioned for elevation that will reshape power dynamics across the entire region. The architects have been monitoring information flow and anticipation dynamics across civilizations for eons, and they've identified what's occurring as high-level attention cascade when someone positioned at apex of institutional hierarchy directs focus toward specific individual, creating ripple effects throughout social networks as people interpret that attention as signal of impending significant developments. Most people operate below the notice of high-level decision-makers, living their lives without ever appearing on radar of those who control major resources and make consequential choices. When someone does attract that level of attention, it marks them as exceptional in some way, possessing capabilities worth recruiting, presenting problems worth addressing, or representing opportunities worth seizing. The attention itself changes your status, regardless of what motivated it. Watch what's happening as word spreads through different networks. Professional circles where you're known are experiencing heightened interest. Colleagues who treated you as peer are suddenly reconsidering whether they've been underestimating your significance, wondering what the powerful figure sees in you that they missed. Personal networks are buzzing with curiosity. Friends and acquaintances are reaching out, asking what's happening, whether you know why someone important is interested in you, what you think this means for your future. Even people who don't know you directly, but have heard your name, are now paying attention because the high-level inquiry has marked you as person of interest worth tracking. Some people are experiencing anxiety about what the attention might mean. If you're being investigated, they worry about their own association with you. Could proximity to someone under scrutiny from powerful figures create problems for them? If you're being recruited for something significant, they worry about being left behind or losing access to you as you move into different circles. If you're being positioned for elevation, they wonder how power dynamics will shift and whether they'll benefit or suffer from your rise. The uncertainty creates tension that amplifies the sense that something major is developing. The truly fascinating element is that the high-level figure who pulled your file probably didn't intend to create this public awareness. Inquiries from that level are usually meant to be discreet, but information about powerful people's interests is valuable currency in social networks, so it leaked almost immediately through various channels. Assistants who mentioned it to colleagues, officials who discussed it with trusted contacts, connected individuals who noticed the unusual inquiry and shared it with their networks. The leak wasn't necessarily malicious, it was inevitable, result of the inquiry itself being too significant to remain completely confidential. And now that awareness has spread throughout the city, everyone is watching to see what happens next. Now the architects are analyzing what created the conditions for high-level attention cascade. to spread so rapidly and thoroughly, and they're identifying what they call information scarcity value, when details about powerful people's intentions and focus are rare enough that any fragment of such information gets amplified and shared widely because people recognize its strategic and social value. Most information circulating through networks is relatively abundant and therefore not particularly valuable. Gossip, opinions, routine updates, but information about what decision makers at highest levels are focusing on is scarce and valuable because it provides insight into where power and opportunity might be directed, allowing recipients to position themselves advantageously or avoid being caught unprepared. Watch how information scarcity value amplified the spread of news about your file being pulled. The first person who learned about the inquiry immediately recognized it as valuable information, knowing that someone powerful is investigating or considering you provides strategic advantage because it signals potential future developments worth preparing for. They shared it with select contacts, perhaps as favor to warn or inform you, perhaps to elevate their own status by demonstrating access to high-level information, perhaps to position themselves advantageously relative to whatever is coming. Those recipients recognized the same value and shared it further, each transmission adding their own interpretation and speculation about what it might mean. Some people are trading the information as social currency, sharing what they know about the inquiry to demonstrate they're connected to valuable information flows, that they have insight into high-level activities others don't access. This status-seeking behavior accelerates information spread because each person who shares gains social capital from being information source, creating incentive structure that rewards rapid dissemination of valuable information regardless of whether sharing was intended by original source. Others are using the information strategically to position themselves relative to you and whatever is coming. Those who think you're being recruited are reaching out to strengthen relationships, hoping to benefit from association with someone about to be elevated. Those who think you might be facing problems are distancing themselves to avoid potential contamination. Those who see opportunity are offering services, connections, or support that might become valuable if you do move into higher circles. Each of these strategic responses further spreads awareness as people explain their positioning to others. A few sophisticated operators are trying to determine not just that your file was pulled, but why, seeking additional details about what specifically was requested, what questions were asked, who else the high-level figure has been meeting with. These deeper inquiries create secondary information waves as they contact various sources, trying to piece together a fuller picture, with each contact creating new node of awareness about the original inquiry. The architects observed that information scarcity value explains why inquiry that was probably meant to be discreet became citywide knowledge within days. In environments where information about high-level decision-making is scarce, any fragment of such information becomes extremely valuable and therefore gets rapidly shared through networks of people who recognize its strategic importance. The high-level figure pulling your file created information event significant enough that containing it was effectively impossible. Too many people had partial knowledge, and each of them had strong incentives to share that knowledge, because doing so provided them with strategic advantages or social capital. Your file being pulled wasn't just administrative action. It was information bomb whose detonation was inevitable once the inquiry was made. Something fascinating is spreading through urban networks now, what the architects call narrative construction competition, where different groups with different perspectives and interests are developing competing interpretations of what the high-level attention means, creating multiple simultaneous stories about you that serve various strategic purposes. Nobody except the high-level figure who pulled your file actually knows their intentions, so everyone else is filling the information vacuum with narratives that reflect their own assumptions, hopes, fears, and interests. These competing narratives are spreading through different communities, creating fragmented understanding where what people believe about the situation depends on which social circles they're connected to. Watch the different narratives emerging in various networks. Optimistic supporters who admire your work are constructing narrative that you're being recruited for prestigious position or significant project. They interpret the high-level attention as recognition of your exceptional capabilities, seeing it as validation that someone important finally noticed what they've been telling people about your potential. This narrative makes them feel vindicated in their support and positions them favorably as early believers. If you do achieve elevation, some cautious observers are developing narrative that you're under investigation for something. They interpret the file pulling as scrutiny rather than opportunity, suggesting that your activities or associations have attracted concern from authorities who are determining whether intervention is necessary. This narrative allows them to position themselves as appropriately skeptical rather than naively enthusiastic, protecting them from embarrassment if negative developments emerge, while also allowing them to claim they were monitoring the situation responsibly. Others with entrepreneurial mindsets are constructing narrative that you're being positioned for collaboration or partnership. They imagine the high-level figure is evaluating whether you could be valuable ally or asset for upcoming initiative, seeing the inquiry as vetting process preceding offer of involvement in significant project. This narrative positions them to potentially benefit by offering to facilitate connections or provide services that might be valuable if partnership materializes. A few conspiracy-inclined individuals are developing dramatic narratives involving hidden agendas, secret operations, or complex power plays. They interpret the high-level attention as evidence of larger machinations. They've been suspicious about seeing you as either pawn or player in schemes that most people don't recognize. These narratives are elaborate and largely speculative, but they satisfy psychological need for hidden explanations that make sense of events that feel significant but remain unclear. The architects observe that narrative construction competition creates interesting social dynamics where your reputation and status are being actively negotiated through competing stories that different groups tell about what's happening to you. Each narrative shapes how people within that group relate to you, approaching you for opportunity if they believe recruitment narrative, maintaining distance if they believe investigation narrative, offering partnership if they believe collaboration narrative. You're simultaneously being constructed as rising star, potential problem of valuable partner, and mysterious figure, depending on which social circles are interpreting the high-level attention. The reality is that nobody knows except the person who pulled your file, but the uncertainty hasn't prevented emergence of confident narratives that shape social responses, regardless of their accuracy. Now the architects are revealing something crucial about the psychological impact that high-level attention has on your own experience and behavior. You're likely experiencing what they call visibility pressure intensification, where awareness that powerful figures are paying attention to you creates psychological pressure that influences how you present yourself and what actions you take. This isn't necessarily negative pressure. It can be motivating and clarifying, but it's undeniably present because knowing you're being observed and evaluated by someone consequential naturally affects how you operate, potentially making you more careful about public behavior, more strategic about visible choices, more conscious of how actions might be interpreted by the person whose attention you've attracted. Consider what visibility pressure creates psychologically. When you operated below notice of high-level figures, you had freedom to experiment, make mistakes, take unconventional approaches without worrying how. They'd be evaluated by people who control significant resources or opportunities now that someone important is watching. Every public action potentially contributes to their assessment of you. Successes might impress them. Failures might concern them. Controversial choices might affect their willingness to work with you or support you. This awareness naturally creates some degree of self-consciousness that influences behavior even if you try to ignore it. Watch how visibility pressure might manifest in different domains. Professionally, you might find yourself being more careful about work you put your name on, ensuring higher quality control, avoiding risky projects that could fail publicly, choosing opportunities that demonstrate capabilities the high-level figure might value. Socially, you might be more selective about associations, maintaining distance from people or groups whose reputation could contaminate yours by association, strengthening relationships with individuals whose connection enhances your profile. Publicly, you might moderate controversial statements or behaviors, not abandoning your principles necessarily, but expressing them more carefully to avoid creating obstacles to whatever opportunity the attention might represent. Some people respond to visibility pressure by becoming more conservative and cautious. They freeze up under scrutiny, afraid that any bold action might be a mistake that costs them opportunity they don't fully understand yet. This excessive caution can be counterproductive because the high-level figure might be paying attention, specifically because of qualities like boldness or innovation that excessive caution suppresses. If you become too different under pressure, you might lose the very characteristics that attracted attention. Others respond by becoming more deliberate and strategic. They don't change who they are fundamentally, but they become more conscious about how they present their authentic selves, ensuring that what the observer sees accurately represents their capabilities, rather than being distorted by poor presentation or unfortunate timing. This strategic authenticity maintains genuine qualities while optimizing how those qualities are communicated to important audiences. A few people respond by deliberately ignoring the pressure. They recognize that changing behavior based on being observed is inauthentic and potentially counterproductive, so they continue operating exactly as they did before the high-level attention. This approach maintains consistency and authenticity, but risks missing opportunity to strategically present yourself during window when important figure is paying attention. The architects observe that visibility pressure, intensification, is inevitable consequence of high-level attention becoming public knowledge. You can't unknow that someone important is evaluating you, and that knowledge necessarily influences behavior, even if only at subconscious level. The key is finding balance between being authentically yourself and strategically presenting your authentic self in ways that communicate your value clearly to observers whose evaluation might significantly impact your future opportunities and trajectory. The architects are now analyzing how the anticipation is affecting institutional and organizational behavior throughout the city, and they're identifying what they call preemptive positioning response, where various entities are adjusting their own strategies and relationships in anticipation of whatever might develop from the high-level attention you're receiving. Organizations don't want to be caught unprepared if you suddenly become significantly more important, or if the high-level figure's interest in you signals broader developments affecting multiple parties. This preemptive positioning creates secondary waves of activity throughout the city as institutions hedge their bets and prepare for multiple possible scenarios. Watch how different organizations are responding to awareness of high-level interest in you. Some are proactively reaching out to establish or strengthen relationships, offering opportunities, inviting you to participate in initiatives, providing resources that might be valuable. These organizations are positioning themselves to benefit from association with you if the high-level attention results in your elevation or empowerment. They're making investments now that could pay dividends later if you become person of influence worth being connected to. Some institutions are conducting their own quiet investigations, reviewing what they know about you, checking whether they have any existing relationships or obligations, evaluating whether your potential rise might affect their interests positively or negatively. These organizations are doing due diligence to ensure they understand situation before it fully develops, giving themselves time to develop appropriate strategies rather than being forced into reactive mode when developments actually occur. Others are hedging by maintaining neutral stance, neither strengthening nor weakening relationships with you, avoiding taking positions that might look wrong in retrospect. These cautious organizations are protecting themselves from being associated with you if the high-level attention is negative, while not burning bridges if it turns out to be positive. This fence-sitting approach is risk-averse but also ensures they don't benefit maximally from any positive developments. A few organizations are quietly distancing themselves, postponing collaborations, declining opportunities to be publicly associated, creating space between themselves and you until the situation clarifies. These risk-averse institutions are protecting themselves from potential contamination if the high-level attention represents investigation or problem rather than opportunity. They may be sacrificing upside to avoid downside, but that's acceptable trade-off for organizations that prioritize stability over opportunity. The architects observe that preemptive positioning response throughout organizational landscape reveals how interconnected modern power systems are. When someone at apex level pays attention to one individual, it creates ripples affecting decision making across entire ecosystem of organizations that might be affected by whatever develops. You haven't actually done anything new or different, but the mere fact that someone important is paying attention has triggered widespread recalibration as institutions position themselves relative to possible futures involving your elevation, recruitment, investigation, or any other outcome that might emerge. The anticipation itself is reshaping institutional landscape before actual developments have occurred, meaning that regardless of what the high-level figures' intentions actually are, their attention has already changed your relationship with organizational ecosystem throughout the city simply by making that attention known. Now something's emerging that the architects call speculation feedback amplification, where widespread speculation about what the high-level attention means is creating self-reinforcing cycle that makes whatever is happening feel even more significant than it might objectively be. As more people discuss and speculate about your situation, the collective attention itself becomes news that attracts more attention, creating upward spiral where the phenomenon of everyone talking about you becomes reason for even more people to pay attention and speculate. This feedback loop is transforming what might have been relatively contained high-level inquiry into major urban event that people throughout the city are aware of and invested in. Watch how speculation feedback amplification operates. Someone hears that your file was pulled and mentions it to colleagues, adding their interpretation of what it might mean. Those colleagues discuss it among themselves, generating additional interpretations and sharing them with their networks. Those network members combine various interpretations they've heard into synthesis that they share further. At each step, the story grows slightly in dramatic emphasis. Someone pulled their file, becomes high-level figure is investigating them, becomes major developments are coming, becomes something unprecedented is about to happen. The core fact remains same, but collective speculation adds layers of significance that make situation feel increasingly momentous. Some people are contributing to amplification through social media or public forums, posting about the situation, sharing what they've heard. asking others what they know. These public discussions make the speculation visible to wider audiences who might not have heard. Through private networks, expanding awareness beyond circles that would normally care about high-level institutional activities, the public visibility creates impression that this is important story worth following, rather than merely interesting gossip. Others are amplifying through behavioral changes that signal their belief something significant is developing. They adjust plans, make strategic moves, position themselves relative to you in visible ways that others notice and interpret as confirmation that developments are imminent. When respected figures act as though major changes are coming, others take that behavior as signal to pay attention. Even if they weren't previously interested, a few amplification nodes are emerging, particularly connected or influential individuals whose interest attracts disproportionate additional attention. When these high-status observers start paying attention and speculating, it validates for others that the situation is worth caring about, bringing new audiences into the speculation cycle who trust the judgment of the high-status observer more than they trust the underlying facts. The architects observe that speculation feedback amplification can create situations where anticipation of something big happening makes something big happen regardless of what originally triggered the attention, even if the high-level figure's initial interest was modest or contained. The collective anticipation throughout city creates pressure and attention that transforms the situation into significant event. The speculation becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. Everyone believing something major is coming makes it more likely that something major will actually develop, because the attention itself creates opportunities, pressures, and dynamics that didn't exist before everyone started watching. Your file being pulled was catalyst, but the citywide anticipation is the phenomenon that's making this feel like major development rather than routine institutional activity. Something profound is crystallizing now that the architects call recognition of liminal status. You're currently existing in interesting psychological and social space between your previous position and whatever comes next. And this liminal period has unique characteristics that create both opportunities and challenges. You're no longer simply who you were before the high-level attention. That person operated below notice of major decision-makers and wasn't subject of citywide speculation. But you're not yet whatever you might become if the attention results in recruitment, elevation, investigation, or other developments. You're in between, suspended in state of potential, where multiple futures remain possible, and everyone, including yourself, is uncertain which will materialize. Consider what liminal status creates psychologically. There's heightened sense of possibility, awareness that life could change significantly based on how high-level figure's interest develops, creating excitement about potential opportunities mixed with anxiety about potential problems. There's also strange quality of being observed without fully understanding by whom or why. Knowing people are watching and speculating creates self-consciousness without providing clarity about what observers are actually assessing or what criteria matter for evaluation. This combination of possibility and uncertainty is both energizing and destabilizing. Watch how liminal status affects social dynamics. Some people treat you differently than they did before, with more deference, more interest, more caution, because your uncertain status means they're unsure how to relate to you. Are you peer, future authority figure, person in trouble, or something else entirely? The uncertainty makes interactions slightly awkward as people navigate relationship without clear understanding of appropriate tone and approach. You might find conversations feel stilted or strategic in ways they didn't before, when your status was clearer. Some opportunities emerge specifically because of liminal status, people who want to influence your trajectory during uncertain period when you might be receptive to advice, alliances, or support that you wouldn't need or want once status resolves. These opportunistic offers require careful evaluation because some represent genuine value while others are attempts to establish claims on your future, gratitude or obligation. If you do achieve elevation, others are maintaining distance until your status clarifies. They want to see how situation resolves before committing to particular relationship with you. This distancing can feel like abandonment, but it's often just rational caution from people who can't afford to bet wrong about how your story develops. They're not against you. They're just waiting for more information before deciding how to relate to your new status. A few people are experiencing envy or resentment about your liminal status. They wish they were receiving high-level attention and being subject of citywide speculation, seeing your uncertain position as better than their certain obscurity. This envy can manifest as subtle, undermining, or as attempts to diminish significance of what's happening to you, claiming it's not really that important, or that similar things have happened to others without leading anywhere meaningful. The architects observe that liminal status is temporally limited but psychologically significant. You're living through period that will be remembered as turning point regardless of which direction it turns. If high-level attention results in positive developments, this period will be remembered as dramatic moment before your rise. If it results in nothing significant, this period will be remembered as interesting but ultimately meaningless episode. If it results in problems, this period will be remembered as calm before storm. But you won't know which narrative is correct until situation resolves, meaning you're making decisions and navigating relationships under profound uncertainty about basic question of whether your life is about to change dramatically or whether everything will return to normal after investigation or interest concludes. The city watching and speculating makes this liminal period more intense than it would be if attention were private, but it also validates that what's happening is significant enough to warrant the psychological and social disruption you're experiencing. While status remains uncertain,